Our first item of business is the presentation from Mr. Tagen Marshall to provide a presentation regarding human trafficking in Canada. Now, because of the way the cameras are facing, we have to get you up to the front. You do have a microphone there for you, Tagen. I understand you are a student of Nanaimo Christian School?
Absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
We'll stand out of the way.
Turns on a dime.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. It is a privilege to be here this late this evening. I appreciate it. Today I will be talking to you about human trafficking in Canada. I have been working on this since September with Miss Kathy Peters, who you have heard from before. So it's really tugged at my heartstrings, to say the least. So let's get rolling. Human trafficking in Canada. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. There was a video there, but, technology. Okay. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, or harboring of persons for the purpose of exploitation, typically in the sex trade or for forced labor. It's modern-day slavery because now we have more living slaves today, which are children, than ever before. This is worldwide, but it happens at home. I know when I started this, I thought human trafficking is only a third or second world issue. But as I investigated, Nanaimo, Victoria, Vancouver, Toronto are all hotspots within this country, which we claim to be the true north, strong and free. Well, if that's the case, why are we treating children this way? Next slide, please. Okay, this video doesn't work, unfortunately, but I'll give you the premise. This is a treatment recovery center for girls in Manitoba. And the way these pimps and these Johns treat these women are abominable. The average age of entry of the sex trade for children are 13 years old or younger. So they romance them. They tell them that they're pretty. They do all the flattery stuff to get them under control. And then they turn the tables. So most of these girls don't view their abusers, their pimps, as pimps and dangerous people. They view them as boyfriends because of the gifts and stuff that they compliment them with and treat them like gold at first. Next slide, please. 75% of children in our sex trade started as children. That's a large number. And I'm sure some of you have children or grandchildren. You wouldn't want this happening to them, I know. And it's so lucrative that it's more lucrative than the drug trade. The average age of entry is 13. This is important. This is our First Peoples here. Up to half of sexually exploited youth are identified as Aboriginal. And this one hits me hard because of my situation. 50 to 98% of children exploited were once in foster care. Those are some staggering numbers. And it's not what we want to see for this country. It happens here in Nanaimo. It happens in things like massage parlors. It happens in things like casinos. It happens in things like businesses which have been approved under front for human trafficking. Next slide, please. The law presented in the House by MP Joy Smith from Manitoba, the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act. What does this bill do for us? It was just adopted again, and it was only brought to the House 2 years ago. One, targets the demand by targeting the buyer of sex. The predator, the pimp, John, are criminalized. Recognizes the seller of sex, so the girl, not as a criminal, and exit strategies are put in place. Very important, but most of these girls don't make it out alive. Next slide, please. 4 P's. This is what we need everyone to do. We need prevention, we need protection, and we need prosecution and partnerships. We need these partnerships. You, as the mayor and council and people of Nanaimo in general, can be the partner that stops this thing. Next slide, please. What can you do? Next. Read the book Invisible Chains, which I have here, written by Mr. Benjamin Perrin from North Vancouver. Well, he was raised in Calgary, but he now works in Vancouver at UBC as a professor of social justice and law. He studied this for 10 years in Cambodia and then saw the pain that was happening in Canada. Next slide, please. Share what you've learned. We can stop this thing. What I need is men in particular. Men, grandparents, parents, people my age to stand up and stop this thing. It's due to pornography and due to the wanting of power. It's all thanks to these things that young men at my age decide to treat these women this way. Next slide, please. Know the warning signs of human trafficking in your community, at work, and when traveling. Next slide, please. Think/pray for every man, woman, and child who has suffered harm through sexual exploitation. Because think of the parents that don't get their girls back. Think of the grandparents who have daughters and granddaughters who they will never get back. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, I have a ask. I would like to meet with your chief of police to discuss what he can do and what we can do to stop this thing and further. Because the second we stand up and say we're not going to stand for this, we can do major things. All it takes is one person to start a movement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Tagen.
Any questions?
That's probably. I should have had my no clapping speech, but I would have clapped too. That's probably the most moving presentation I've ever seen in front of this council on the 4.5 years I've been involved. Thank you very much. Questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you very much.
The chief of police is here. So I'd like to try and arrange a meeting, or I guess you will, as quick as possible. I know that, Tagen. The chief is here. This is the officer in charge of RCMP, and he'll set up a meeting with you. Thank you very much for it. Could I have the slide on the 4 Ps again? That's why I missed writing those down. Thank you.
Councillor,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Councillor Yocum?
Thank you, Tagen, for the powerful presentation. My name is Bill Yocum, and the one slide you had up there, all of the slides very powerful, but not to intervene with your work with the chief of police, but I'd be very interested in meeting with yourself in the future, as my main job. I run a child welfare agency, so those numbers hit me to heart, and I know too many files because I run a child welfare agency for 9 First Nations for kids in care, and also being from Nanaimo. So I look forward to this is an area we can collectively all got to work together on, because the Aboriginal piece goes under the radar, and if it's not in our backyard, people usually don't care. So I lift my hands up to you for bringing awareness to that.
And that's what we can do, so we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Because our First Nations people and our non-First Nations people need to know this.
Yes. Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. Motion to receive the delegation. Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. If I could, just for anybody who didn't write it down, the book is called Invisible Chains. I know that I'll be getting it.